Hey y'all, welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Colton here with Brandon. BCS is over, all but Worlds. We have our final tournament results from Pasadena from a couple weeks ago. Let's jump into that. For the first time in an English regional, a 32 team top cut, 298 players in SoCal on March 22nd. So we're not going to go into all 32. We only have 28 of them anyway. But let's start with top 8. Overlord wins this event. Quince Nino in second. Salvage Pants Slime in third. Choice Salvage Shauna in fourth. Rounding out top 8, Hendrickson, Ruby, Miku from Quince, and 8 Pants Spy Family. Overlord has officially landed where it's going to land. There's no other Overlord in top 32. But the handful of players who are still playing Overlord after the most recent hit are probably actually dangerous. But the rank and file Overlord just doesn't make top cut anymore. Like, there is that pretty clear division between the players who are very good on Overlord and everybody else on Overlord. And I think a lot of the everybody else on Overlord dropped it after the ban list. But Overlord, in the past month or two, has picked up 6 tops since February 1st. 2 of those are wins. And I think that says a lot about what you expect to see when you see Overlord.
I think we definitely are seeing a lot more production out of post-ban Overlord than maybe even we were expecting too.
Yes, but I also think that Overlord is firmly in the tier of it has the true believers, and what have we said so many times in this season? There's nothing more dangerous than someone who is on a list that you are not expecting to see, but who really knows how to play it.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most dangerous thing in any given room, and that's the place that Overlord is in, right? Except it has a little bit more clout around its name because it was a bigger part of the meta before. And now it's very firmly in the rogue tier because it just doesn't, you don't see it often, right? Like, it's only had 6 tops in these, past 2 months, and that's with 4 major events.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I thought was really interesting was actually from the percentages they put out for the representation from California. Because I don't think you would have necessarily guessed the top 3 representations. I think the first 2 were pretty easy to guess, being Quince and Hololive.
Mm-hmm.
But in that order.
Yeah.
Which I think has actually said something too.
Yeah.
But the third being Chainsaw Man.
I think
in terms of representation.
Chainsaw Man, having gotten some results, I think has unspooked some people, right? Similar story to Overlord, right? Was a significant deck in the meta, got hit, and it scared away a lot of the people who weren't true believers, right? Because there are a lot of people, this is not a bad thing, but there are a lot of people who play whatever is best. Like, they pick up the best deck and they play the best deck. Chainsaw Man was, in terms of tournament results, the best deck for a significant period of time. And I think a lot of people picked it up for that reason. And then when it got hit, a lot of people put it down for that reason. And now that it's starting to show up in Top Cut more often, as people have figured out how to play it post-ban, I think more people are maybe interested in jumping back on that bandwagon. Something they already own that they think is meaningful.
But I think it's also worth noting that despite our current list not missing 4 entries, that Chainsaw Man didn't make top 32.
Right. And
with that kind of representation as well being, but also not seeing that representation reflected in Top Cut, I think says something too.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest. There's nothing more damning than seeing a room full of a thing and the thing not making Top Cut. Like, that was the knock on Overlord forever, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and 3rd or 4th highest represented deck in the meta, and it just never had enough tops to, like, demonstrate that representation, right? Because, and the same thing is happening at Chainsaw Man. The same thing is happening to both Overlord and Chainsaw Man. The top players have not changed. The rest of the meta that was playing those decks fell out completely, and I think a lot of the good Chainsaw Man players have moved on.
And I think that there's also something said about Azure Lane, which was the other one that was mentioned on the representation grouping that also didn't make top 32.
Well, Azure Lane has one trick. Azure Lane has one trick.
I'm saying that a lot of the representation having come through as Chainsaw Man and Azure Lane, but not being reflected in Top Cut also, I think says more to the room as opposed to the as what people are playing into as opposed to other things. Because like what we see here in the top 32 cut is a very wide variety of different kind of decks.
Yeah.
A wide variety of different things being able to make that top kind of cut.
Yeah, and there's nothing super crazy about this top 8. Like, nothing here is unexpected. And then if you go through the rest of top 16, Bocchi the Rock, Caligura Hololive, Pachin Tokyo Revengers, Ichika Quince, Blue Archive, and then we have another slime. It's the Milam into the Mirin slime. These are all lists that have already topped this season. There's nothing surprising here. So, and then, you know, if you go through the rest of top 32, like...
It just gets even more diverse.
It gets more diverse, but it's also nothing that we haven't seen yet, right? I think, this might be the first top of the season for Ari Ferreira, or maybe the second top of the season for Ari Ferreira? Yeah, second. Because it topped in France. It was the first time it topped of the season, I think, was back in France. But Escanor, we saw that already. Venus Link, we saw that. You know, Licorice Recoil's been around a little bit. Like, nothing... I don't think there's anything in top 32 that did not top at some point this season. So, Pasadena really being like a true summation of what has been a very interesting and ever-changing meta with, you know, the ban lists and the hits and, you know, all of the new releases. Like, it's been a very long and busy season. And I think that Pasadena ends up looking like a bit of a time capsule of everything from this season. But it also tells me that, again, we talked about this last time, right? If you think the meta is stale, I don't think you're paying attention. Like, look at all of these sets that are performing well. In a 298-player room, top 32, that's no joke, right? Like, you have to go 5-2 to make top cut. Or, they topped out, 7 rounds, right? So, you had to go 5-2. Like, you had to have a good day to make top cut. It's not like anyone who made it didn't deserve it.
And we also see that this will very drastically change by the time the next season comes out, too.
Right, and that's the thing, is like, this really is a time capsule for a meta that is not going to exist in a handful of weeks. Because as we shift our attention to the release schedule, Bunny Girl just dropped. That's a big set. Nikkei's dropping April 18th. That's a big set. Like, those are the two. Yep. Right? Those are the two that we know are going to change this meta. Exactly how Nikkei changes the meta is still up in the air. Like,
sure,
because people have been pivoting off of, like, the cards that we initially saw where everyone kind of went, oh, shoot, these are extremely powerful, into a completely different, also extremely powerful build.
Yeah.
Bunny Girl, we know what Bunny Girl does. Bunny Girl is 50 good cards. Like, it's already pulling from its older stuff, and now it just has a better top end, spicy tail. So... like, Bunny Girl's just going to be uber consistent and extremely good. Yeah. It's, you know, kind of the platonic ideal of the good 1K1.
Both of those things happening within a month of each other.
And right before Worlds. That's the other thing that's kind of irritating about all this, is that Worlds is going to be a fundamentally different meta than the rest of the season. Like, fundamentally different.
Well, I mean,
half the room is going to be Bunny Girl or Nikkei.
To be fair, there was a ban list in between here and there, too, from the beginning of season to now.
Sure, but, like, to see, like, end of season March 22nd to Worlds, which is coming up in a few weeks, to have 2 meta-shaking releases in that time, I don't care for that. I don't care for that. Like, especially after they've done such a good job with, like, the last year of releases, making things that are balanced and have not completely upset the apple cart of the meta. I don't love seeing the World's players have to play in a completely new meta, solve a brand new meta, to try to win a world title. That feels kind of bad. But
I think it'd actually be more interesting to see what those players' takes on those things will be. Because I think, especially with the stream that's going to happen that day,
Yep.
we'll be able to see a lot of different decks and a lot of different potential ideas, especially kind of some players' thoughts of what they're going to be going into. Especially with some of the builds that we expect to see going in for both Nikkei and Bunny Girl. How are players going to adapt in their decks to meet those things? I think it's going to be a big sign too.
Looking further down the release schedule, you will notice that there is something on there that hasn't been officially announced by Bushiroad. At least, sort of not officially announced by Bushiroad. They put it on the website and then took it down. Girls Band Cry with a date, I believe it was July 18th. So they put it up there and then immediately took it down, but there's always someone watching the Bushiroad website for changes, and of course they got a screen grab of it. So we expect that to happen. The date theoretically could change, but Girls Band Cry is happening in English.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that that's a thing that's coming up. They probably took it down because attached with the live stream is going to be a product stream for Weiss, kind of after or around in that top cut time around.
Yeah,
somewhere in there. I said about 4 p.m. Japan time, which is about 3 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah. But yeah, in any case, like, Girls Band Party's happening, and there will be a product stream during Worlds that will presumably tell us what's happening around probably August, September, probably.
Hopefully, because the latest release that we have of things that have been announced is July 25th.
Yep.
And even then, it's essentially should be a very small release because it's
it's Asia only.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I would expect us to see some things really quickly here for kind of that August, September, October range.
Yep.
Because it's not until May. I would also argue that we probably aren't going to be seeing another English original for summer. So we're looking forward to that stream happening with the live stream with the announcements for product and what might be coming in the near future.
Yep. So with that, we're done here. Wasn't as much to talk about today. Upcoming schedule for us. Our next Clock Talk is not going to be in 2 weeks. It's going to be next week. We are going to go through the data from this most recent meta, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how this last meta went, and we're going to have the full data set, the whole 9 yards of thing that we usually do. We're going to have all of that insofar as we have access to it. We're going to talk about that next Thursday, so a week from now. And then 2 weeks after that, we will have another Clock Talk where we're going to go over the season preview for Summerfest / Worlds, I guess, right? Because those will both be the same meta. So we're going to talk about all of the things that are potentially relevant going into Worlds 2025 and Summerfest. And I'll have a video in between those two on the 17th. Thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.
We'll see you then.